My dogs, what's good y'all? My name is Bryce Ayon, or you can call me Bryce for short, and I'm a self-taught fashion designer who's been making clothing for 7 years now for my brand ODOD. I just taught myself this technique in the smocking realm, which is hand stitching 3D prints, and I couldn't actually find a video to make this print. I could only find pictures. So I figured, why not for my first YouTube video, I just show you guys how to do this technique so you guys don't have to struggle the same way that I did. Lastly, if you want to jump straight into the process and skip this background info, go to this time here that I just put on the screen. So before I go over the technique, I just want to say that the fabric that I'm using with this alternating colors, it does not need to look like this at all in order for you to do the skeleton smocking. I'm just doing this myself because I'm going to be creating these pants. If you follow my Instagram, I'm actually showing the journey of how I'm making this design come to life. You can honestly do this whole technique with regular fabric, and in fact, I'm actually going to be showing you guys a larger print of the fabric that uses a way more standard textile. This smocking design is actually based off of two techniques. So the first one is an arrow smocking technique, and the second one is the lattice smocking technique. So when you add these two together in the proper placement, you create this spinal cord skeleton looking smocking technique that honestly looks super cool and way more intricate than what it actually is. So now that we've gone over that quick lesson, I just want to thank you guys for actually watching that. Everyone that skipped ahead sucks, but we're just going to keep that between me and you. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and fake it till we make it. I love your tenacity and ambition. Let's go ahead and get right into the process. So when making this print, when it comes to the actual fabric itself, you need to overshoot on the fabric length and width because this technique actually bunches the fabric together. Yeah, so you can see here, this is one that's fully done versus one that's not done at all. The original was 20 inches wide and 44 inches long, and it got reduced to 16 inches wide and 32 inches long. So when it comes to the materials, you're going to need the fabric, a sewing needle, thread, you need a pen, a ruler, and scissors. With this pen, guys, make sure that the pen that you're using isn't something that bleeds through the fabric. If so, you might have to change to like a colored pencil or something else that actually doesn't show on the other side. And the way that you can test that is by using a scrap piece of fabric like I have here to make a marking on it. Wait a little bit and just see if it actually shows on the opposite side. The first thing you do is use your ruler and pen to make a series of dots on the fabric. You can start the dots 1.5 inches from the top of the fabric for seam allowance purposes. Put the first dot in the center of the fabric, then put 3 dots on both sides of the center dot, spreading them apart by 1 inch apiece. So it should be 7 dots total. You continue this step until you reach the bottom of your fabric, making sure you leave 1.5 inches of space at the bottom, just like you did at the top. Your fabric should look like this, and you can screenshot this as step 1 if you'd like. Next is drawing the lines. Guys, draw this exact design. Make sure you're not skipping any lines along the way. Okay, so if you guys actually manipulated the fabric like I did with alternating colors, you can see that there's like a flap of fabric that I have to keep folding up and folding down. I did this on purpose just so you could see how difficult it would be to make the lines that's on there. So what you should do is cut that excess fabric down to make the process of drawing the lines a lot easier, as you can see here. After you draw all of the lines, your fabric should now look like this. Now it's the fun part, the stitching. So when you do the stitching, what you should do is the first lattice section all the way down, then the arrow section all the way down, followed by the second lattice section all the way down. But since I don't want this video to be 20 years long, I'm going to do the smocking in this section only so you can see how it looks. Loop your needle with a generous amount of thread, then double knot the bottom of the thread so it won't pull through your fabric. Start at the lattice section and make a small stitch at the first dot. Don't worry, it'll look like relatively nothing on the front side of the fabric. Then do another stitch at the dot that the line is connected to. Pull the fabric together. You'll see it comes together kind of like a sandwich almost. Now, sew through that piece that's pulled together 3 times just to make sure the stitch won't loosen. Then you'll see me add 2 knots to keep everything in place. This next step is super important, guys. Make sure you don't pull the thread super tight when going to the next lattice dot. You want to keep some slack in the line so that the final print doesn't hold a bunch of tension and can move around freely, especially if you're making this into pants or a jacket. So you've created that slack. Then, this is also super important, make a stitch at that same dot before you move down to the next dot that the line is connected to. This part actually replicates the knot that you made when you first started. It makes the bunching together process easier, trust me. So now you see this portion isn't going anywhere. Repeat this step all the way down the first section.
job, I'm going way too hard. Why do they treat me wrong?
For the arrow section, make sure your first stitch is at either of the two top dots of this open-ended triangle. Then make a stitch at the other side. Next, make a stitch at the bottom of the triangle and then proceed to pull the fabric together. After you've pulled it all close, stitch the top two dots together. Notice I'm not sewing through the bottom dot. It's not necessary if you've pulled everything close together.
What it's like to perform your heart out with no applause. What it's like to
Again, create slack in the thread when moving to the next arrow design, and repeat the same step with creating a knot at the next dot.
always feel like you on the outside. What it's like to pay people for a simple promotion. What it's like to feel all they did was go through the motions. What it's like to spend 10 grand on an album, only to put it out, not satisfied with the outcome. What it's like to feel you don't have any family. We never thought the same, and I know you can't understand me. Why do they treat me wrong?
So this is good. At some point you will run out of thread, right? What you should do is make sure that you're not super close to running out, because it makes it harder to maneuver, and simply cut the thread after making a knot and start over again with some new thread. After you finish these two sections, it should look like this. Looks really bad, right? Honestly, I thought the same thing, but just trust the process and do the next section. It has to be complete to actually show that skeletal structure that you're looking for.
Disrespected by producers that look down on me. Swear every time.
So this is after I finish all three sections. You can start to see it kind of looks how it's supposed to, right? Once you've gone all the way down in all three sections, you get a back that looks like this and a final front that looks like this. Look, bada bing, bada boom. Now, like I told you guys earlier, I also did a larger version of this same design with only using a single layer of fabric. The only major difference here, aside from that it's one layer, is that instead of using 1 inch by 1 inch grid, I actually used a 2 inch by 2 inch grid, meaning everything is spaced out by 2 inches vertically and horizontally. I just wanted to do this to show you guys that the possibilities are honestly endless when it comes to this type of smocking technique. Okay. So there you have it. Hopefully now you understand how to create this skeleton smocking design. If you guys have any questions or requests for something that you'd like to see in the future, just let me know in the comments below. I'll respond to you in the comments, or I'll make a video about whatever you guys want to see. And lastly, don't forget to follow for more tips and tricks. Also, check out my Instagram, because I make a lot of clothing on there that you may not see on here. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. All right, peace.